This penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio is actually looking quite nice. It's the aftermath of the eclipse that'll be ongoing throughout the month of May that I'm a little bit concerned about. The eclipse itself is the final eclipse that's going to be fully happening in the sign of Scorpio and in the sign of Taurus on that axis. This is bringing us to a conclusion of an 18-month-long energy of the north and south nodes transiting through Taurus and Scorpio. We will have one final eclipse later on in the year on October 28th that will be a new moon eclipse in the sign of Taurus. However, the nodes will have already moved on. This month and into June, this is the last chance to get on the fate train, to jump into whatever it is that our destiny is trying to align us with right now. And this eclipse is a big energy of culminations of things that we've already began, that we've already been changing, that we've already been moving into as a result of these fated chance encounters, these synchronicities, these signs, these shifts in the energy that have been pulling us in a new direction for a long time. Because this is a full moon eclipse, it's about culminations. And because this is also a south node eclipse, this is going to be, again, about endings. The eclipse we had on the 19th of April, that new moon eclipse, the first one in Aries that we're going to be having, or that we have had, that one was also about endings. And so we have this shifting energy where we're trying to let go of all of the things that we need to let go of. We're trying to finalize things. We're trying to wrap things up. We're trying to move on from the past in order to move forward into a better, brighter, more aligned future for ourselves. On a collective level, this is not going to look easy. I would say that especially through the month of May, after this eclipse, there's going to be a major activation of the eclipse points, a major activation of the north and south nodes. And that activation is actually occurring because of Jupiter shifting into the sign of Taurus. Typically, we think about Jupiter as a benefic energy. It is the great benefic. It brings expansion. It brings beauty. It brings harmony. It brings positivity. It brings all of this openness and wonderful energy. However, in this particular case, we're going to have to deal with a bit of a crisis before we can engage with that beautiful, liberating, freeing energy we're going to have with Jupiter transiting the sign of Taurus. And the reason for this is because the second Jupiter moves into the sign of Taurus, it's going to be squaring Pluto in Aquarius. It's also going to be forming a T-square with Mars, which will shift into Leo pretty quickly after that. And it's also going to be in a T-square, or actually like a square. It's going to be activating the energy of the north and south nodes because we will have a Jupiter conjunction to the north node. And so there's this massive T-square going on between the north and south nodes, Jupiter, Mars, which is a really intense malefic influence, and Pluto, which is another influence that can be very psychologically, emotionally, and sometimes even physically intense when it's otherwise indicated, like it is in this particular circumstance. And so whatever is going on at this eclipse period right now around May 5th, that's ushering us into something new by helping us to break free from something old. However, whatever themes, whatever signs, whatever synchronicities, whatever events are transpiring that feel fated, that feel different, that feel like we don't have control over, because the south node eclipses, you guys, these are the ones where it feels like you don't have any control over what's going on in the situation. North node eclipses, like the one we just had on April 19th, there's a sense that we are driving the ship at least somewhat, even though we're not, because it's like this insatiable need to just move into something. We're compelled to move forward and we don't really actually have a choice. It's like an illusion of choice, but we're really being pulled by fate. When it comes to those south node eclipses, there's no illusion of choice. It's like, these things are happening, I guess. This is what it is. I guess this is what I'm doing now. And so there's going to be a lot of that where we feel like we're being pulled, we're being taken for a ride, we're being shoved into this new direction, we're being thrown out of something old. And again, this is a culmination, a wrapping up of an energy that we've been piecing together, an ongoing story that's been 18 months long in the Taurus Scorpio areas of our lives and charts, which of course we'll get into when we talk about the forecast for all 12 signs. But this eclipse, which I do have an image for right here, this eclipse is something that we're going to need a little bit of context for before we get into that all signs forecast that I know you guys are excited about. And so make sure you listen to this first and then get into the all signs forecast. And when you get into the all signs forecast, make sure you listen to your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign, especially during eclipse season, because it's going to give you a more holistic overview of the energies we're going to be discussing here. But in terms of the general energy of the eclipse, we have a really potent energy here. This is a full moon in the sign of Scorpio, where it's technically at its fall. And so this could bring up a lot of really intense emotional energy. Typically with the moon in Scorpio, you feel things really intensely, but you don't express it. However, with a full moon and with that south node energy, actually, yeah, I would say that there's an energy here around maybe an emotional experience or a feeling or an intuition or some sort of internal sensation or dialogue that you've been having, that you've been keeping to yourself, that comes to this point of intensity, this boiling point where all of a sudden it has to come out. You have to let it go. And in order to let it go, you have to release it. You have to put it out there. You have to express it in some way. So I would say that this is going to be an emotional eclipse for a lot of people, where things that have been building up for a year and a half on that psycho-emotional level will be spilling over and bubbling over into our actual reality through our expression. And that's going to be a big, big theme for a lot of people with this particular eclipse. There could also be a lot of emotional upheaval or a need for an emotional release due to all of the changes that we're going through on the opposite end of the spectrum. So we've had Uranus in the sign of Taurus since 2018. This is going to be the sun conjunct Uranus on the opposite end of this eclipse. And so it's almost as if we're kind of like in the midst of a lot of change, and we're so deeply in it that we can't actually see the big picture. We just know that a lot of things are changing. It feels chaotic. We can't really get a full sense of what's happening. And so this eclipse is going to help bring us out of that. It's going to help us to see things or to experience things more subjectively, more intuitively, in order to guide us in the right direction moving forward. So it's almost as if we're like in the weeds of it. And this eclipse pulls us out of it, and it helps us to see bigger picture, long-term, grander scale. Like, this is part of our destiny. Yes, this is all happening. It's discombobulating. It's unsettling. It's very uncomfortable on one end, but on the other end, look where this might be heading, right? Look where this might lead us to. So that's something to really keep in mind as we go through this eclipse season, which really is going to be extending past the normal time period to a certain extent. So the eclipse season officially ends on May 19th when we have our next new moon and our next lunar cycle. However, because that Jupiter Taurus, entry happens on May 17th, and that's square to Pluto, and the energy is ongoing for a week or so after that because of the T-square that's being formed with all of these other planets, with Mars, with the nodes. It's going to feel like we're in eclipse season well through the end of May, and part of that is because a lot of the events that are unfolding, a lot of the themes that are coming up the last couple of weeks and into the next couple of weeks will really be coming to a head, and you'll see this is where the rubber meets the road, you guys. This time period here around May 17th, really a week before and after, is going to be the most intense of it. And I'm going to do a separate video on this specifically because it is so important. So keep an eye out for that in the next week or so. But, we do have to discuss this as a culmination of the eclipse energies. So know that whatever's happening now isn't just happening now. And it might seem like really good and it's all going really smooth right now. And then that might get disrupted due to something that comes up very abruptly that kind of is shocking or sudden or, just really intense and kind of throws you for a loop that takes things to the next level, but not in the way that you had originally anticipated. Anytime there's an eclipse, you guys, whatever you think is happening before the eclipse, that's not really what's going to be happening. Something is being eclipsed. Important information is being eclipsed. Important insight is being eclipsed. A situation might be coming up that hasn't unfolded yet, that you sense something's shaking up or something's happening, but it's not really there. It's not fully formed yet, so you can't know it. You can't do anything about it yet. And the eclipse is typically unfold this way. It's very common. So it's like you have these plans, you think you know where the eclipse is taking you, and then all of a sudden something shifts. And the big shift for this particular eclipse energy is happening around May 17th. So keep an eye on that time period, mark your calendar, and also just keep a general like log, I guess, or this is always one of the best times to journal because the things that come up come back around with the subsequent eclipse seasons and with these subsequent eclipse activations. And May 17th onward is an eclipse activation, so around that time period. So it's going to be an ongoing story. The only kind of saving grace with that is kind of what's going on already right now, which is that Saturn is in a really nice trine with the South Node. It's in a really nice sextile with the North Node. So that's grounding this into something. Even in the sign of Pisces, where Saturn is not very grounded, it does have the ability to stabilize, to reinforce, right? To bring things to this point of stability when it's in positive aspect. And so it's almost as if whatever's coming up right now, the instability, it's being kind of turned into something more stable for the long term by Saturn. And so that will be a part of this as well. Of course, we do still have the ongoing Mercury retrograde. If you haven't watched my forecast for that, please do, because the Mercury retrograde is activating all of this as well. When Mercury stations to go direct, it's going to be hitting the north and, it's going to be actually stationing to go direct on the North Node. So it's activating this North and South Node. It's activating that T-square. It's activating the eclipse energy. So we're just in like major eclipse activation season. And so before we get into the forecast for all 12 signs, I just want to go over what else you can look at in your chart if you want to get a deeper dive into the planetary energies for the next really month ahead with this one, but especially these next 2 weeks beginning with May 5th. And so because the eclipse is the biggest energy and because this T-square happening in the fixed signs is the biggest energy as well in the upcoming 2 weeks, you want to really pay attention to the planets that you have in fixed signs. And so download my Astrology 101 PDF guide completely free. Link is down below, and go through your chart. It'll show you how to do that and how to even look at the glyphs if you don't understand the glyphs, so you can piece together which planets you have in the fixed signs, because those planets and their significations, which are listed in the PDF guide, are going to be subject to the most intensive, most fated, most turbulent of change, especially if you have planets near 14 degrees in the fixed signs or near 5 degrees in the fixed signs where the nodes are transiting as well. And really the first 5 degrees of the fixed signs because of all this Jupiter in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius stuff going on here. And so just as a reminder, the fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. The secondary thing you're going to want to look at there is which houses are ruled by the signs that are in the fixed signs, that are placed in the fixed signs in your birth chart. Those houses are going to be subject to turbulence and change, and the houses that are occupied by the fixed signs in general will be subject to the most turbulence, change, upheaval, the most dramatic, fated, karmic transformations right now. Planets in the water signs, with the exception of Taurus, because that is where all the action is happening right now. So planets in Virgo and in Capricorn are going to be subject to really positively experienced, really gentle, fated changes that come about in a way that's not as disruptive or jarring. And so you're going to want to look up which planets you have in Virgo and in Capricorn, what are the significations for those planets in the Astrology 101 PDF guide, and go from there. Of course, the houses that are ruled by those planets will be subject to positive, more gentle change as well. And so that is the general forecast and the overview. Hopefully you guys got a good idea of the context of what's coming up. And also, as a side note, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I very much always appreciate that. It helps me out a lot. And I appreciate all of you just being here watching. And if you feel like your friends might benefit from, something that I'm saying here today, definitely share this video, like the video, comment below, let us know how everything is going with you during this eclipse season. All right, so let's get into the forecast for Aries and for Aries rising. So for Aries, this has been an ongoing 18-month period of shifting and changing when it comes to your finances, your resources, your material possessions. There's something here that's coming to a culmination point, potentially with an important purchase, an important investment, something involving your partner's resources, something involving maybe even like taxes, debt. Maybe it could even be like a loan or paying off a loan that's coming through right now. Maybe you've been working toward paying off a loan and you're like, oh, this is going to take me for the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden something shows up and it changes things for you. Like, money shows up or an opportunity shows up that can allow you to get out of debt much more quickly. This could be a fated opportunity or a fated transition that comes up that's been maybe a long time coming, involving a partner. So if you are in partnership, if you are, married or in a long-term relationship, especially if you combine finances, then this is a time where your partner might have an opportunity that finally comes to a culmination, or they might be letting go of an old opportunity, and that might be scary, but it will probably lead to new opportunities coming in that will be much more aligned with what your partner needs. And so I would expect lots of change going on in the next month, really, but especially around this time period. There could be an important message that comes up. There could be something revealed to you around or shortly after the time of this eclipse on May 5th that helps you shift your finances in the right direction. It's almost as if you couldn't see it before, and all of a sudden it's there. It's like in your face and you can't ignore it anymore, where it helps you. So it's almost like an illumination of something very fated that's going to shift things in a different direction for you financially. For every single person, this won't all be positive. There could be disruptions that are experienced negatively, but in the end, they help you to kind of progress into a new direction, the direction that you need to be in when it comes to your material possessions and the way that you enjoy your money, save your money, spend your money, invest your money, things like that. Okay. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, this energy, this full moon, this penumbral eclipse is culminating in your 7th house, which is the house of marriage. It's the house of relationships. It's the house of partnership. It's the house of one-on-one close connections with anyone, really, including business partnerships and things like that. There is something that you are seeing. It's almost as if there's a past life connection or a past life situation involving relationships that feels really familiar to you, that comes up and brings an emotional upset or an emotional a need to express something on an emotional or psychological level to your partner, with your partner, or in partnership. It could also be, if there's been this like ongoing thing where you've been trying to get into a relationship or you've been craving a relationship, but the relationships you've been coming into the past 18 months have been just very unstable and very kind of short term or on again, off again. This could bring in something new that feels like something old, that feels like something really familiar to you when it comes to partnerships. So it's almost as if you've met this person before when you haven't. I love this energy for, not just making changes on a personal level, but on an interpersonal level. There's something here that needs to shift. There's something here that needs to give in order to make space for you to be who you want to be who you came here to be who you're destined to be, to focus on your needs, on your goals, on your orientation, direction, and purpose in life. And so, this is a really important time where changes and shifts will happen. Specifically, they'll come out of something to do with a relationship, a contract, an agreement, a negotiation. And we'll talk more about this, especially in the next video, because that's where it gets a little bit more dicey. You might feel the diciness right now. There could be power and control issues. There could be something going on in your work that could be bringing stuff up right now, but it's going to really become more apparent in the next couple of weeks. So for Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Gemini, it looks like I'm looking like at nothing, but on my screen, I'm actually looking at, I just noticed that it's like that. It's like, why are you looking this way? I'm looking that way because that's where the chart is on my screen. Okay. So, anyway, The Gemini and Gemini rising. So you guys are having this eclipse culminate in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. There could be something that comes up that's really disruptive in this area around the time of the eclipse on May 5th. There could be a brand new beginning or something that's illuminated for you, that's illuminated involving either a new beginning that feels familiar, so it feels kind of like it's happened before, or it's the culmination of a cycle or a series of events that have changed things for you or shifted things for you in a different direction when it comes to your health and work especially. And so if you've been having maybe a little bit more difficulty with your health, which is a potential when you have the South Node transiting your 6th house, or maybe you've been, resolving a lot and letting go of a lot, purging a lot. This would be a great time for like detox, especially not maybe on the actual day of this full moon. Eclipses are unpredictable and not the best time to do stuff like that necessarily. However, it could be that this is like the next phase of something with your health where it's been ongoing. You've been kind of looking at it. You've been purging and letting go of maybe bad habits, old habits, diets, foods, things that are toxic in your life in general and things that are toxic in your daily routines in general. And now you're starting to see kind of that culmination and where this is leading and how this is helping you and maybe what you still need to do or to shift moving forward. And so this is a big energy for that. This could bring up fated karmic transitions or endings or shifts in a new direction involving animals or pets. I'm not saying that that's going to be like the death of an animal. That's not necessarily what I see here. This is a little bit more positive where it's like almost like a change that comes up. It's like a culmination of a change that needs to happen that could be involving pets or animals, or maybe you suddenly find an animal or one comes to you in some sort of roundabout weird faded way, and you take that on and it's a little disruptive, but it's something that it just feels right. This could also be a fated shift or change or ending or something coming to a culmination involving your work, especially your involving your work. But there could be a need to address something that's been weighing on you emotionally or psychologically, intuitively even, involving your relationship with your coworkers or people in the workplace or workplace dynamics where it comes up and there's no ignoring it anymore. It's been causing you a lot of restlessness. It's been causing you a lot of unease behind the scenes where on a subconscious level, it's been kind of rattling your cages where you can't quite feel settled into it till it's resolved. Now's the point where it needs to come up. It needs to be resolved. Okay. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer, this is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of joy. It's the house of hobbies, interests, pursuits that you do for your own benefit, for your own happiness, for your own creativity and self-expression. And so there could be something coming to a culmination point for you in this area where finally something that you've been maybe not wanting or not doing because of maybe other people's opinions or something going on in that 11th house. So maybe because of social norms, or maybe because people think it's strange and you're kind of like becoming the oddball in your friend group or in your social circle or something like that over the past couple of years. Maybe that's prevented you from going all in on something or embracing something that feels like it comes really naturally to you as a talent or a gift or a creative form of expression. And now you feel like, all right, I need to put this out there. I need to do it once and for all. This could also bring fated karmic changes and transitions involving children. For some of you who are at that age bracket and have children in this age bracket, it could be that your child leaves home and, you're an empty nester for the first time. For some of you, this could be something involving, your kids going to school, and maybe all of a sudden you have all of this free time to do the things that you love. There could be a change involving your children in general, or for some of you, not all of you, especially because Mars is in your sign right now, But for some of you, I would say that this could bring about a unexpected pregnancy, or the culmination of something involving maybe trying to get pregnant or wanting to get pregnant, if that's something that's applicable to you. But yeah, this energy is pretty strong there in that fifth house. This would be a really great time to embrace anything that comes up synchronistically that seems like fun. And so fated karmic transitions, changes, chance encounters can come through doing things like going out to a restaurant, going to a concert, going out on the town in some way. All of that is positive for you to do in order to embrace and bring about change that you need, that's fated, that's going to help you move into the direction of what you love, and it's going to help you express that more. For Leo and Leo rising. So this full moon is culminating in your fourth house, which is the house of home, family, property, real estate. This could bring about a lot. First off, there's like something that's been ongoing, that's been shifting and changing when it comes to your career and public reputation, but also when it comes to your home and your family situation, what's going on behind the scenes, outside of the working world for you. And so this could be a time period where all of a sudden you find yourself, stuck at home, or you're spending more time at home, or something comes up that's very turbulent that you need to address in the area of home, family, property, real estate. This could be a major shift or a culmination or an ending that's coming up for you involving a certain place of living. And so maybe you're going to move, or maybe you're going to cut ties with an old location. There could also be changes coming up for you, karmic fated changes involving your family. This could also bring something to a boiling point when it comes to your emotions. So it's almost like there's a lot of change going on, like outside of the home. So in your working world, in your career, in involving the energy that you put out there for the world at large, the mark you make on the world at large, even if you're not working, the legacy you leave behind after work, if you're retired. That's been something that's been constantly changing and shifting and evolving and morphing. You've been needing more freedom. You've been needing more excitement in that area that's been stable and kind of become monotonous after quite some time. And it's almost as if there's something going on behind the scenes where your family's not supporting you, or your home life or your home environment doesn't support you in the way that you need it. And there could be an emotional, it could bring you to an emotional boiling point where all of a sudden you're like, I've been holding this in and I didn't even realize it. I need to tell you this. I need to express this. I need to share this with you. And that's going to lead to a freeing, an opening, a release that will stimulate the change that you need on all sides of the spectrum. For Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgos, this full moon energy is happening in your third house, which is the house of day-to-day kind of mundane communications. It's the house of your community, your neighborhood. And so there could be something coming to a culmination point that you've been working on, or that you've been working on letting go of, involving your neighbors, maybe a dispute or an argument or some sort of disagreement amongst your community. Or it could even be something brand new that's coming in that feels really familiar. Like maybe you're invited to become a part of like a community organization, your HOA, or, something along those lines, where it just feels like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this, obviously. Or maybe it's been ongoing where you've been kind of working toward it, and finally it shows up and you're, on the board of something. That could be a part of this too. This could also bring up fated karmic changes and transitions involving your relationship with your siblings and extended family members. This could bring up an opportunity to travel, probably more short distance than long, to a place that you've been to before that has a very strong sort of fated karmic pull, where it feels like this is a place that you're deeply connected to in some way. And so it could be an important pilgrimage for you, an opportunity to take a journey to a place that kind of resets you or throws you in a different direction. It throws you on the course that you need to be moving into. It's kind of the last chance to get into that too. There could also be something showing up involving the culmination of a learning opportunity, where you could be receiving a certificate, or you could kind of see where this educational pursuit is heading and where it's going to take you, like overall in the end moving forward. And so that could be part of this as well. I would say you might have some very fated communication coming in, some very fated insights and downloads coming in, messages that come in that kind of push your buttons emotionally, where it's like, this has been an ongoing thing. I've been holding this in and I need to express this. But for you in particular, especially if you're expressing it on kind of a one-on-one basis with somebody who's close to you, I think it could actually be very positive. It could go quite well. It could free up a lot of energy for you. All right. And then for Libra and for Libra rising. So for Libra, this full moon energy is happening in your second house, this eclipse. And so Libra is another sign where there could be disruptions, changes, transitions that are very fated, karmic, and that have been ongoing for at least 18 months now, involving your finances, your material possessions, your savings, your budget. There could also be something going on here where maybe you've been kind of in the weeds with it when it comes to joint finances with your partner, when it comes to debt, when it comes to taxes or tax issues, when it comes to some sort of like insurance or inheritance issue, when it comes to maybe wanting to take out a loan or make an important investment or pay off some sort of loan. It's kind of like it's been all over the place. There's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of maybe paperwork involving one of these themes or all of these themes. And finally, you're able to kind of pull yourself out of it and view it more big picture, but also in terms of just like intuition and how you feel about it, instead of just logicking it out the entire time. It's like you're pulling yourself out of it. You're seeing and feeling and sensing where this is headed and how this could impact your finances potentially in a good way moving forward, so long as you keep at it, so long as you make the changes that you need to make. This could also be the culmination of the need to make a very important, very fated purchase that changes your life in a big way too. And so that could be part of this for you as well. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising. So of course, Scorpio, this is happening in your sign. And so this is an interesting one. For me in particular, last time I had an eclipse like this on my ascendant and descendant, I got engaged to my husband. So it's not always a bad thing to have an eclipse in your sign. But anyway, so this is a really powerful culmination point of something that's been ongoing that could be involving changes in a relationship, but this is going to be more about how this is impacting you and what your next steps are in terms of that relationship, that connection. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic partnership. It doesn't have to be that you're getting engaged or that you're getting married or that something, moves to the next level with a relationship in the romantic sense. But there's something going on here where your connection to someone, or your connection maybe to everyone, to a lot of close relationships, have been changing, have been shifting, have been, moving all over the place. Maybe your partner has been making a lot of changes, and now you're able to pull yourself out of it and actually kind of reassess and reevaluate how you feel about this, how this is impacting you as a person, right? And how this is impacting you within the partnership. And so you'll be able to sense that if there's something that's been building up emotionally, this would be the time to release it, where it's finally coming out. It's reaching that boiling point. You can't ignore it anymore. And this could be the next step, the next stage in an ongoing story where you've been changing your life across the board, personally, interpersonally, when it comes to your career, when it comes to your home life, everything's been shifting. And this is where it's reaching that point of culmination, that point of no return, where you have to make those final changes now. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius, this is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of secrets. It's the house of things that go on behind the scenes and behind closed doors. I would say that for Sagittarius, there's been a lot of busyness, a lot of disruption to your day-to-day routine. There have been fated karmic situations that have been coming up involving your health or the health of others, where you have taken on the caregiver role. There might have been fated karmic shifts in situations involving not only your health, but potentially involving animals, your animals, the health of your animals, things like that could have come up for you. Shifts and changes that have been going on involving your work, right? And the way that you go about doing your work, or maybe your career and your job in general have been changing and shifting, and you're going in a new direction there. This is where it's kind of reaching this culmination point where everything's coming to a head all at once, and you kind of need to pull yourself out of it for a minute here. You need to pull yourself out of it. You need to go into a space of solitude, seclusion, rest, and reprieve in order to intuit and understand and see things much more clearly from that emotional, psychological, internal, subjective level. This could be a time where something that's been ongoing with all of those themes of health, of daily routines and things like that comes to a culmination point and it forces you to take some time away. Or it could be self-imposed, like I just need a break. I need a vacation here. There could be fated karmic situations that come up involving 12th house themes. So involving spirituality, involving altered states of consciousness. And so whatever dreams you're having right now, Sagittarius, they are very important. Write them down and keep them, right? Keep them somewhere, because this is trying to tell you something. This could also be fated karmic energies involving 12th house institutions like hospitals that could come up right now, retreat centers, rehabilitation centers, brothels, ashrams, any place that's like kind of hidden from the normal society. Those are 12th house institutions. Obviously, this is only going to be applicable for certain people, but it could be applicable, like there could be a situation that comes up involving those. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this energy of this full moon penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, social networks, people that you surround yourself with by choice because you want to. And so this is a time where there could be a change or a disruption or something that comes to a culmination point involving your social circle. I would say that this could be an important friendship ending or an important friendship beginning, or something being taken to the next level when it comes to an old friendship. So it's kind of like somebody who you already know, and all of a sudden you realize that you have more in common than you thought, and then your friendship grows and evolves in a way that feels very fated, where it's like, I was meant to connect with this person for some reason. Like, I need this person in my life, and it seems like they need the same. If it's a new connection that comes in around the time of this eclipse, it's kind of like, it feels like I was meant to align with this group of people. Holy crap, like this is my tribe. This is like, my soul group, or whatever you want to call it. Like, these people are my people, and it feels like I already know them. Or if it's even just like one new friend, it could be the same thing. It's like you meet this person, it's very synchronistic, and you become close very quickly because it feels like you already know this person. On the other end of the spectrum, it could be fated karmic situations that come up with friends that are disruptive in a negative way, where you realize like this situation feels familiar, even though it hasn't happened before. And it feels like I just need to cut ties and I need to let this go. I need to let go of this pattern in my social connections with people. That could be a big part of this as well. But kind of putting yourself out there and in situations where you could meet new people could change your life in a really, really major way. And so I wouldn't avoid connections right now. I wouldn't avoid, friendships and social obligations right now. Those things are extra important at this time. And even if they're showing up in a way that's disruptive, that feels negative at the time, it's trying to pull you in a certain specific direction that you need to go into. Okay. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, so another one of those fixed sign energies. For Aquarius, this is going to be a little bit more disruptive, especially because Pluto just entered your sign. This eclipse, even though it's not at 0 degrees or near 0 degrees, it's highlighting the north and south nodes at 4 degrees in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. That means it's highlighting the T-square that is ongoing between Pluto and the nodes that will culminate in July. And so this is where Yeah, this is going to be a big fated karmic shift in energy for you, where it could be that you're going to be encountering some sort of psychological or emotional crises that's going to catapult you in a new direction when it comes to, your career, your public reputation, your home, family, property, real estate, relationship with your parents. All of those things could be subject to major shifts and change, but it's almost as if you already knew it was coming. And right now, in particular, the focus is more on career and the impact that you make on the world at large, the legacy you leave behind after your working years, where there's been a lot of focus the past couple of weeks on what's going on behind the scenes, like family dynamics, and maybe you've been moving, or maybe you are preparing for a big move. That could be part of this too, and that could be coming to a culmination. But now it's time to kind of pull yourself out of the weeds of all of the changes or disruptions or busyness that's going on in your home life and your family life. In your relationship with your family, and to kind of take a step back and see the bigger picture, and to feel it and intuit it as well, because this is going to give you a really big intuitive hit on where things are heading, not just behind the scenes with your home and family life, but also the direction that you need to move into when it comes to your career and public reputation, and something important that you maybe need to either re-embrace that you've let go of from the past in terms of a talent, a gift, an opportunity for your career that could come back around. Or it could be really seeing that you need to let go of something when it comes to your career in order to make space for what you truly need, want, and desire in that area. And fate could step in and actually force you to release it as well. That might feel disruptive, but in the end, it's kind of, you can sense that it's for a reason. Like, especially with that lunar energy, it's like a knowing, like an internal knowing that everything's for a reason, right? Everything's probably going to be just fine. For Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this energy is happening in your 3rd and 9th house especially. And so Pisces is getting a nicer energy with this eclipse than a lot of the other signs. It's not a bad eclipse in general, but Pisces, you got some good stuff here. So this is culminating in your 9th house, which is the house of, first off, foreign travel and connection with people in foreign countries. And so something could be reaching a culmination point, or you could have a fated opportunity that comes up out of the blue that allows you to travel. Or if you're already traveling, this travel experience could be very fated. It could be very karmic. It could change your life in a really big way. Basically, any travel experiences you've been having over the past 18 months are likely to have some sort of karmic implications or fated implications, and to adjust or realign you in some way, but especially if it's happening around the time of this eclipse. This is also the culmination of potentially something involving higher education or an educational pursuit, where maybe you're either reaching that point of completion, or it could be that you're reaching this point of no return where you have to decide, am I going to stick with this or am I going to move on? And you probably want to move on. So that's part of what's going on here as well. This is also you examining what's been going on a day-to-day basis when it comes to your relationship with your siblings, extended family members, day-to-day communications, day-to-day travel, vehicles, connections with your neighbors, your community, in a new way. Especially if you are traveling, it's almost as if getting out of your normal surroundings and your normal environment is helping you to see things and perceive things from a brand new perspective, and that's going to change the way that you do things moving forward. This could also be a really big revelation to you when it comes to your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, your spiritual, philosophical, religious understanding of the world and the way things are. It's almost like something is revealed to you that's been there all along, that feels right and feels familiar, that you just couldn't grasp before. And that changes your worldview in a big way. And, as such, it changes the way that you move through the world. So that could be a part of this energy as well. All right. So that is my forecast, you guys, for all 12 signs for the penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. I'll be back soon with a Jupiter in Taurus video I'm doing as a collaboration with one of my students, and we're going to talk about that T-square that I mentioned multiple times throughout this video. So make sure you subscribe, you hit that notification bell so you don't miss that. I do a new video or tutorial pretty much every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and so you don't want to miss that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.